Alright, I'm back. My name is Andrew Ace. You spell my last name U-Y-S, and my handle online is UYS999. Find me on Instagram and Twitter. And this is part 3 of my favorite, best Spider-Man graphic novel reads. So I've done a little caveat at the beginning of each segment just saying these are the novels, graphic novels I have in my library. So if you disagree or want to add one that I haven't mentioned, I love comments. I love getting back to people in my comments. And I love learning about graphic novels maybe that I haven't read, or storylines maybe I should reread, because someone's shown me a certain aspect or quality that I hadn't, noticed. Maybe I just flipped through it the first time I was reading the book. So, these last 2 graphic novels are alternate storylines, if you will. And first up, we have Spider-Man Reign. Now this is by Kaare Andrews, who was just at Fan Expo. Great time we had there. And this is what happens when Spider-Man gets old. It is a totally self-admitted riff on Dark Knight Returns. This was Kaare Andrews saying, listen, if Batman can get the treatment for being old, and I mean Batman doesn't even have any superpowers, what would happen to Spider-Man? What would happen to Spider-Man's life? Especially given, the way that it had been portrayed in the comic books up to this point. Death of Gwen Stacy, clone sagas, Peter Parker's the everyman hero, but who in a way can never catch a break. And this storyline is then, he's in retirement, he's an old guy. I think, he even starts the story pretty much with a cast on. And, he's plagued, haunted by dark dreams of, what had happened and failures of the past. And then this is him coming out of retirement one last time to face the Secret Six and to try and save a city that, has sort of given up on superheroes. It's a dark storyline. I didn't give age ratings actually on those last 2 books, which I tried to, so that parents might have a sense for their kids if a book is appropriate or not. This I would keep as a mature rating. I mean, maybe 13 plus. You would know, the child better than I. But this is probably a 16 or 18 plus book, just given the darkness and ingredients. That doesn't try and shy away from things like characters being eaten in half by venom in a rather gruesome manner. So maybe not always appropriate for a 10-year-old. Now, a book that is great for all age reads and is great for 10-year-old readers is Ultimate Spider-Man. This is written by Brian Michael Bendis. Again, one of my favorite authors. A pillar of the Marvel Universe of the last 10 years, maybe more. He's responsible for some phenomenal storylines in New Avengers and Avengers. And you wouldn't have read a Marvel comic book in the last 10 years at least and not encountered his characters, including, and this is actually, maybe I'm thinking of something that came out in like 2001, is Ultimate Spider-Man, which was at the time an attempt to reboot the character, not so much as, he has different background or that, Aunt May doesn't exist, but rather that, by this point in comic book, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, had been married to Mary Jane, was trying to hold down a job or several jobs. He had certainly grown away from his early days, preteen, teen, trying to deal with responsibility in a way that most of the kids aren't at that time. But in a way, it is a metaphor for the additional responsibilities as one grows up. And someone might argue, having just had at the time the Clone Saga, the character was bogged down in backstory that made it almost impossible for anyone who didn't want to try and cover 30 years of history and almost PhD level quality of research, any hope of really catching up with the character. Well, along came Ultimate Spider-Man, and this is Peter Parker. He's young. Mary Jane is young. They certainly tweaked a few things. So like as I just mentioned, instead of Gwen Stacy starting off with Peter Parker or being the story, it's Mary Jane. Gwen Stacy shows up. Other things that are interesting or slightly different. The first issue of Spider-Man almost takes 6 issues for them to explain here. And this is actually the volume I'm holding here. My hand is 13 issues. This collects volumes 1 and 2. So, Mark Bagley, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, he is not always my favorite artist. But he does a phenomenal job with Spider-Man here, especially in heightening, you know, the youth and the modernness of the character. Because the other thing that, you know, I think people were finding was that Peter Parker was supposed to be the super nerd, super genius, and, you know, while he had his chemistry set, you know, he knew nothing about computers. Well, in this, they certainly update the character, so he's very tech-savvy, and I think, even though now the Ultimate Universe has pretty much been collapsed, I believe, in Battle World, I don't want to spoil it too much, but if you look at the cover of all new, all different, all new Marvel that I was just seeing online this morning, you'll see, well, 2 Spider-Man men and Spider-Gwen on it, and that certainly resonates from this storyline. One of those characters is the Ultimate Spider-Man that is now around, because the one thing that this book didn't do was shy away from change. So you get characters who come in that you would expect to last the entirety of Spider-Man's run, and they don't. Villains are changed enough so the storylines are both interesting and original, still connecting very much with the original kind of magic and fun of the, you know, that villain, the characters and interactions. But some of these villains are certainly far more dangerous, and other ones far more easily disposed of, imprisoned, removed from being a threat. So, yeah, you know, if you're looking for an all-ages read, you can't go wrong checking out Ultimate Spider-Man. There are something like 25 volumes. I've only read the first 6 or 7, though I'm familiar with the whole run from having worked in a comic book store. But, you know, again, this is actually necessarily a bad thing. I personally loved getting Buffy DVDs, and, you know, that was 7 different birthdays and Christmases where I knew something I really wanted was coming along. Well, you get the right reader hooked into Ultimate Spider-Man, and you've probably got 4 or 5 years worth of presents covered. And Bendis does a phenomenal run. I think him and Bagely on this book finally surpassed Stan Lee and I want to say Jack Kirby, but it might be Stan Lee and John Romita. But I feel it's Stan Lee and Jack Kirby on Fantastic Four, which had previously been the longest running collaborative creative team, and Bendis and Bagely surpassed that. So, anyway, those are my favorite Spider-Man reads, my best Spider-Man reads. I hope you'll find me online at UYS999. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Google+, Hello, Echo, I don't know. If it's out there, I probably have an account. I always like when someone says hi. So I hope you guys will keep watching, give me some feedback, and I'll see you soon with another graphic novel review. Take care.